Happy Friday and welcome to today's episode of Quarantine Kitchen. Today we are going to make a high protein breakfast for Mr. B, including tofu scrambled eggs, and we're also going to include some beans and a high protein vegan sausage, making that a total of 63 grams of protein. And yes, I'll break down the quarantine maths for you later. So let's get started with the tofu scrambled eggs. Here I'm using a firm block of tofu. What I want to do here is squeeze as much water out of the tofu as possible. As you're doing this, the tofu might crumble up, and that's absolutely fine because we're going to end up crumbling it up for the tofu scrambled eggs anyway. Get all your quarantine frustrations out on this tofu. You can see the texture starting to look a little bit like scrambled eggs. So we're going to start by heating the pan and adding a little bit of oil. You could also use vegan butter, or if you're not vegan you can use just butter. If you don't want to use oil, you can also use a little bit of vegetable stock. I like to add a little bit of fat back to the tofu because it doesn't have any fat. It's actually one of the advantages of using these types of scrambled eggs is that zero fat and zero cholesterol and very high in protein. Next I'm going to saute some onions. Normally I'd use white onions, but my spring onions were wilting like ice cream on a hot summer's day, so I decided that I wanted to quickly utilize those. So I'm actually going to use spring onions for this recipe. I cook the spring onions until they've softened a little bit, and then I'm going to add the tofu. I'm just frying the tofu off to give it a little bit of colour and to get rid of any of the excess water that's remained. Next I'm going to add the turmeric. That gives it the yellow scrambled egg colour. It also helps as a herb with inflammation and immunity, so it's always good to kind of add a little bit of turmeric in if you can. Added 1 heaped teaspoon. If you don't like the taste of turmeric, you can add less. You want to make sure that the turmeric is evenly distributed so that all of the pieces have the yellow colour to it. And then we're going to add the flavourings. I add about half a teaspoon of onion powder, 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder, and 1/4 teaspoon of black salt. Black salt is used a lot in Indian vegan cooking. It smells like eggs, so actually it gives the tofu scrambled eggs an eggy smell. That's because it has sulfur in it. It's very dense in minerals, so it's very good for you. It's said to have many health properties. I'm also going to add a little bit of nutritional yeast in, but that's pretty optional. I like to add a little bit more protein and B12 and vitamins, so that's why I add it in, but of course it has that cheesy flavour which you might not want in your scrambled eggs. I added about half a teaspoon there. Little pepper, again optional, but for me this gets the metabolism going in the morning, so just a little bit. I'm just going to taste it to see if I need to adjust for seasoning. I'm going to add in a little bit more black salt because I want that eggy flavour. If you're worried about the amount of salt that you put into dishes, you can worry less about black salt. Black salt is less processed and is less iodized, and therefore it's healthier for you. It has the capacity to increase your energy, to decrease blockages, to cleanse the liver. It's alkaline, and so it's very good for your skin, and it also stimulates the blood circulation. Which a bit of geeky facts for today. Okay, so I think we're just about done. In total, that took about 3 minutes from the time we put the tofu into the pan and spiced it to it being ready. So I'm going to serve this tofu scrambled eggs with baked beans, like a good English girl, some Beyond Meat sausages, and a biscuit that I made yesterday. So in total, and let's do some quarantine maths. The sausage has 21 grams of protein, the tofu has 32 grams of protein, the beans have 10 grams of protein, actually the nutritional yeast has about 8 grams of protein, and so in total you have about 70 grams of protein in this entire dish. Happy brunching!